Hey everyone, Ryan from eBike Escape, and in this video we're going to be unboxing the Propella 7S electric bike, so let's get into it. Before we get started with the unboxing, if you are looking to purchase a Propella electric bike, please consider using the link in the description before you make your purchase. It's a free and easy way to support the channel. Thanks in advance for your support. Also in the description, you'll find links to our electric bike accessories list, top e-bike brands page, and finally our electric bike discounts code page where I track all the deals on the electric bike brands that I follow. With that, let's get started with the unboxing. We're back with Matt at All About Bikes. How are you doing?
Pretty good today.
So it is extremely cold outside, so it's kind of a good day to do an assembly. So we're going to check out what Propella has to offer. Opted for the 7S, and that's the 7-speed version. They offer 3 different models. With that, let's start unboxing this electric bike. One thing that we noticed right away with this electric bike, super lightweight, 37 pounds, really light when you compare it to other electric bikes. Of course, that has a smaller motor and smaller battery.
Look at that, they give you a real part tool wrench.
That's awesome. I'll definitely need that. All right, so I opened up the first box and we have the seat post that actually does not come installed. Let's see, it looks like we have a saddle, nice blue to match the rest of the bike. You'll see the other blue accents on this bike here in a little bit.
Quick release in this box. Got pedals here. All
right, and then we have the charger here, 2-amp charger, nice and small.
Fancy blue rims. All right. Let's set the wheel aside. And I like to go ahead and get the seat post in right away. And get it up in the stand to take the rest of the packaging, huh? Take a little bit of grease, put that down here in the seat tube. Tighten down with my handy little torque wrench.
Not a quick release there, just something to keep in mind. It's only 37 pounds on this bike.
That's pretty awesome. Do you know some of the details of why this one is so light?
Yeah, so this is really set up as kind of lightweight, not super powerful. You're definitely going to get a workout on this electric bike. So kind of a bike to just give you a little bit extra assist. Again, it has a smaller battery as well, which we'll unveil here in a little bit. I believe it's a 250 watt-hour battery, and then the motor is a 200 or 250 watt Bafang motor here, and it peaks at, I believe, 400 watts. So smaller motor on the rear here. And also another thing to keep in mind is this is a 36 volt system as opposed to a 48 volt.
Yeah, so it comes with a nice park tool Allen key set.
That's definitely a first.
Yeah, that's pretty rad. I like the aesthetics of it. The white chain with the reflective sidewall tires and blue rims. And blue's my favorite color, so I'm a little excited as we peel this all apart.
Yeah, so they sell 3 different models, as I mentioned. They sell the 7S, which is this one. And the reason I chose this one, I just feel like this is going to be the model that most people opt for. Nice to have those gears, because the other ones are single speeds. So they sell this in a single speed, and then they also sell a super small framed bike. I will put a picture on the screen. It almost looks like kind of like a mini e-bike, like shorter wheelbase, smaller wheels, and it's just very unique.
What price point is this one at, roughly, Ryan?
This is at $12.99.
Well, that seems pretty reasonable.
There's a picture of the mini.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. We even have blue locking grips here. Now the bike arrived, from what I've seen so far, in really good condition. I mean, even the box had virtually no damage on it at all. And of course, with some of these more narrower electric bikes, it's a little bit easier with some of the packaging because the bike components don't necessarily sit as close to the cardboard in the box. And this is also the 4.0, so this is the 4th generation of this model, so it has been refined over time.
That's kind of like buying the first generation of a new car. You don't always want to do that. It's nicer to go a little bit deeper in the generations because they figured out some of the bugs and made some good changes. Well, this looks like it's going to be maybe a pretty straightforward build. No rack or fenders on this one either, huh?
Yep, very simple electric bike. Again, really set up for perhaps someone in a urban environment, I would say.
Get that on camera. Your local mechanic riding the struggle bus to work today.
Putting a stem faceplate on.
There we go. Just get these all started. These usually get torqued to around 5 to 6 Newton meters. And that's a very important one. Torque down to spec. Hear it all about bikes. We do not like it when people are picking their teeth off the pavement. We like torque wrenches. Yeah, we can always change the angle of the bars. Once we get it down at the stand, back to the torque wrench.
Someone asked in a previous video what brand of torque wrench that one is.
This one's a Bontrager.
Okay.
Yeah, they gave these away in a lot of high-end bike builds. And so got a few of these laying around, and I think they're only good for, I think 150 torques or something like that. But I do have another torque wrench I can compare it next to and make sure it's still dialed. Yeah, torque wrenches do need to be recalibrated every now and then. They're not cheap to have it done either, so. But I try to just buy a new one and then check the old one against the new one. The bike mechanics insurance policy. Get a little grease on the pedals here.
We've gotten a few comments on the grease that Matt uses. That's the Finish Line, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I love that one. The gun makes it super easy. And it's just a lot less messy. And yeah, I've got a little mess in my drawer here, but on the actual bike and with my hands, I keep it off of it pretty nice. And the other thing too that I like about the white grease is you can really tell when it's getting slimy or nasty. So, you take apart something in the future and it was white grease, you're going to be able to see exactly how bad it is and how dirty it is. Let's see here. Usually they have it labeled on the pedals. Yep, it's got an R there. It's kind of hard to see, and putting the pedals on, you always want to go towards the way that the bike would be pedaling. So I actually end up backpedaling it when it's in the stand, but the threads on both sides are going to be moving forward. So this is the reverse thread one. I'll just get these started and bust out the big pedal wrench. Still haven't looked up a torque spec on pedals, but I thought it was 35 Newton meter if I'm not mistaken. But check your manufacturer's specifications for. Yeah, you get it.
Tell me about the white chain. Besides it looking cool, is there anything else that, is that paint usually wear off? You've seen a lot more bikes than I have.
Yeah, so in my experience, the colored chains the paint does not wear off on it. I can see, looks like this one might have just been, I don't know. It looks like this one maybe is just kind of sprayed on. You can see some overflow on it, which is interesting.
I think it looks, the whole bike looks really cool, but the chain really kind of sets it off here. And you can see they do have a master link. I really like to see that. Just makes it so much easier to remove a chain. And most electric bikes do not come with a master link. Maybe in the higher end electric bikes, but most often in bikes this price range, definitely not.
So in bikes this price range, do you usually see Schrader valves on this?
Yeah, so typically Schrader valves, and these are Presta valves. Let's take a look at those in case you aren't familiar. So that's a Presta valve. And a lot of the nice bike pumps that you buy these days will have a Schrader attachment and a Presta attachment. So I highly recommend buying a decent bike pump as well. It just makes your life a lot easier and less frustrating.
Presta's pretty standard nowadays, as you said, with any decent bike pump that you get at a local bike shop. I think even Home Depot now has bike pumps that do Prestas and Schrader. So, but a little bit different thing. If you don't know how to use it, definitely look it up. It's not that hard to do. We could even show that on the video, but it is. Everyone always asks, why do I have those darn French valves on my bike? They hold high pressures quite nicely, and you can let out air a little bit easier with them too. So
now, did you notice that the wheel maybe wasn't true, or did you decide to just throw it in there and check it?
I just decided to go ahead and throw it in and check it anyways, and that's kind of my standard build procedure on these, and I just thought I'd give it a quick couple of moves on here. I guess it is disc brake, so it's not that important that it's incredibly true, but
definitely one of the benefits of having a bike shop put together your electric bike.
And it really wasn't too bad, but a couple little movements and dial it in a little bit better. All right, so we got some cable actuated disc brakes here. I will say they make a pretty awesome mechanical disc brake. I've been very impressed with the Shimano ones, and they're pretty rare across the industry for whatever reason.
So we're just gonna move this cable. It seems like it's a little tight on the right side. Not sure if that was something at the factory, but I think we can move that to the other side. It's just gonna be a little bit safer. One thing that we were just talking about, Shimano mechanical disc brakes here. I think that's a first on any electric bike that I've reviewed. So when you're looking at this price point, potentially comparing it to other electric bikes. So these are Shimano, and I believe they're Tourney, which is what you see kind of their groups that more of their entry level groups that Shimano offers. But I'll be very curious. Obviously we'll have a full review out on the channel when I take this bike out for a spin and we get some nicer weather.
Yeah, I was gonna ride my bike to the grocery store earlier on today, and I was like, 17 below with the wind chill? Like, no thanks. But yeah, I am a pretty big fan of these Shimano. I mean, I've used these Tourneys before, these brakes, and they have a really nice grab to them. I've got a, really good stopping power is what I feel like, and they're pretty rare to find, I feel like. Had a couple sets throughout time.
And especially with the parts shortage, maybe even more so.
Yeah, exactly. Everything Shimano has been hard to get your hands on, so I wonder what they had to do to get a hold of these ones.
I feel like almost these wheels remind me almost of a little bit of your Polo bike, because I feel like you have purple rims maybe.
Yeah, I've got purple hubs and do some purple and green. I like the loud colors. Makes it fun. And I always tell people, if you're kind of on the fence on what bike to get and what color, I always tell people, get the loudest and brightest one. There's just that much more of a chance that a motorist will see you when you're out. And I don't know, I've sold a lot of bikes in my day, and although I don't do that anymore, I'm just repairing them. That's what I would always tell people. Well, if you're torn on the color, get the bright one.
So Matt is obviously a bike mechanic, and his, I would say your most use case for bikes is bike polo, except for maybe commuting around town a little bit.
Yeah, commuting around town, mountain biking. This looks like it'd be a fun bike for it, no doubt. So, nice city cruiser.
So these tires are 700 by 35C. I feel like they're not super thin as far as road tires go. So definitely, I feel like maybe a happy medium if you're going to be using this as more of an efficient commuter. And we can see Matt has brought out the white mat, and that's what he uses to adjust the brakes.
Yeah, I will say, this is, I don't know, probably 5th, 6th bike that we've done here on this channel together, and I'm really impressed by the facing on these brake mounts. So on some of the other ones, they kind of slid around a little bit as I tightened them. With this, it stayed really steady, and it's showing me that they had a pretty good manufacturing process, and I think it'll be a little bit easier to adjust for other people. If it was that easy for me to adjust, it ought to be decently easy for someone else too. but now it's just getting the cable tension. It actually feels pretty good already, but it's a Shimano brake, so I know I can make it feel better than that.
These are definitely some of the nicest mechanical brakes that I've personally felt. We do have some AirTech, RTech levers, not a name I'm familiar with, but I guess the important piece is you have some higher quality calipers. Yeah,
and that white mat really does get me to see a nice line of sight when I'm setting it up, and really helps to be able to see the gap. And it's really not much on either side of the disc brake pads. You're just got a few millimeters before it makes contact. And so disc brakes can be a little bit tricky to set up out of the box, but a lot of people will probably just end up getting a little bit of rub on it, and that's okay too, but you want to minimize that as much as possible.
So I noticed you turn that with a wrench,
Yeah.
but also you can do that by hand. Is that to get additional tightness?
Yeah, so the wrench, it had a lock nut here on this barrel adjuster, so I was just backing it out to get a little bit more cable tension and make it feel a little bit tighter. And then you can kind of relock that nut, like once you find the desired like spot for your tension. So there's a few different ways to do the same thing here, but the barrel adjuster is pulling more cable tension, so I get the lever feel to be a little bit better. The other way I can do that here is just loosening this and just getting a little bit more cable tension on the actual. So I'll loosen that and then move this up just slightly to where it'll contact sooner.
Now, do you know on these brakes specifically, are both pads moving or is it just one?
It is just the one.
Okay.
But you can change the inboard side here with an adjustment as well. Dude, feel the lever on that now. I love the way Shimano's feel.
Yeah, gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and they're relatively inexpensive mechanicals. Like, if you have any bikes in the future that you're really not comfortable with the off-brand brakes, these, I don't think they're much more than $20, $30 a caliper for these, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look it up, but they're not that expensive. So
now Matt was talking about being able to move the pad in, so that's going to be that adjustment right there. So I feel like these are pretty easy to dial in. So by tightening that, you're just making the lever feel a little bit better, and then if you had to make adjustments to the actual pad, you would do it there, correct?
Yeah, so initially when I set this up, I probably should have talked about it a little bit, but I did back this one out a little bit to give myself a little bit more room. That way I can start to see my gap, and then, the rotor is nice and straight on this too, and the mount was, so this was really quite an easy setup. And I would say that's probably a little bit more tricky on some of the e-bikes that we've seen so far, so that's nice.
Yeah, nice job Propella on these brakes. They feel really nice.
And the back one feels really good right out the box too. We'll see if it's rubbing at all. Oh yeah, she's got some rub. Start off with maybe doing the same thing and backing that off a couple clicks. And I'm going to loosen these caliper bolts and try to center that caliper over the rotor.
Now, if you've ever adjusted disc brakes, I think you will appreciate how fast Matt's able to kind of get these dialed in. I've spent hours, I feel like, trying to get brakes, and sometimes they're still not aligned perfectly.
I think the big thing that we maybe forget to tell people as mechanics too is when we're loosening these caliper bolts, I go ahead and loosen them just enough to where I can barely slide when I push with my hand. So when I'm moving it, I can get like this side aligned to where I can see air on either side or see the white underneath. And then I come back and then align this side and kind of get it dialed in. So I got no rub there, which is nice. We'll go up to the lever and see how it feels, because I did back off of this bolt, which is going to make it feel a little bit, yeah, so that's not quite as grabby as what we want. So then we can see if we can see it already. The then we might have a little bit of leeway going the other direction. So if we add some cable tension on, yeah, I could even go a little bit more with that. Still don't feel too bad, but so that is the thing about these brakes, is because this brake pad is the only one that moves. So if you set it up kind of improperly, you're actually bending your rotor. So I think it's better to kind of maybe open this up, get this a little bit more dialed in, and we're going to go ahead and move the whole thing.
Now, obviously, it's the outermost pad that's moving, because with that pad adjustment, you're just moving the static pad closer or further away from that disc.
Correct. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this, but you know, this will make it a little bit better long term, to where it's not bending that rotor, and give you better stopping power. Let's see if it's going to overshift. They set up their limit screws correct. Yeah, so I have kind of a special way to test this out. I wouldn't recommend it for most people, but I put my fingers back here and thumb here and kind of push over. If they didn't set up the limit screws correctly, then your chain would overshift into your wheel, which is exactly what you don't want to happen on a test ride. That's why we simulated in the stand, to see if it's going to have an issue or a problem with it. But looks like they set up the limit screw pretty good on that end. Then I'll shift it down here, and I can kind of put pressure the other way. And that's pretty cool. Looks like they set that up nicely out of the box too. So the limit screws are set. Now it's just a matter of seeing how it shifts through the gears.
So we have a Shimano Altus rear derailleur here. Not the most entry-level component from Shimano. A little bit of a step up, I would say. Gets the job done in my experience. I've ridden a lot of electric bikes with Shimano Altus.
Yeah, it's kind of one of their workhorse, derailleurs. It's always very functional, and as a mechanic, I would say it's pretty easy to dial in. It's shifting through pretty good. It was just maybe a little bit hesitant going up through the gears. I can do just maybe about a quarter turn or so on that barrel adjuster, and it might pop it up a little bit quicker here. Yep. And it's still coming down through the cluster, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. I think we're pretty good on that then. And
just something that, if you're whatever electric bike that you're buying, something that I've really learned from Matt assembling some of these bikes is you always want to make sure that your derailleur hanger here did not get damaged in shipping. Of course, that's going to mean if it did, you'll want to take it to a bike shop and get that bent back. And that is one of the most common things I've personally seen on some of the electric bikes, and something that can easily be overlooked, especially something to look at if your bike perhaps isn't shifting correctly.
Yeah, so this little piece here is specific to every bike frame or manufacturer, and there's 300-400 different little machine pieces, derailleur hangers like this, throughout the bike industry, and so they are very specific. And if this gets bent a little bit, it's not going to shift correctly. Now, people might be asking, well, why do you even have that on there? Well, it is better than your whole frame breaking, right? So if this was integrated into the frame and you caught a stick in your derailleur, or you caught something in it, it's designed for this piece to snap rather than your derailleur and everything else. So it does serve its purpose, but that is a really good thing to check upon arrival. And if you're having shifting issues, it could be this little guy. So we got that dialed in. One thing I guess I didn't check, this was I think they had that all torqued and set from out of the box. 3 mil to adjust this. I suppose it's going to be probably air up tires and take it down, get the seat on, and I'll adjust that on the ground. This is a pretty nice build, I gotta say. This one seems maybe a step above the other ones as far as the assembly process on here. Nice brakes, which helps, and then the mounting for the actual disc brakes. They seem to be faced nice out of the factory and easier to set up and align than some of the other ones. So that's encouraging.
And Matt was up here shifting, also Shimano trigger shifter. Really like that. They didn't opt for the thumb shifter, which is a very basic component that you see. Nothing wrong with it. I just personally prefer the trigger shifter, 7 speeds up here. So pretty much on this bike, you're getting Shimano components almost all around, with the exception of the brake levers. So Matt's going ahead and pumping up these tires, again with those Presta valves. So if you are looking at this electric bike, be sure that you have a pump that can pump those up.
Yeah, and I'll give a quick little rundown. So I'll get it back to where it was anyways for those few that might not know, or maybe there's a lot of people that don't know, but you know, these come with the little caps on there. You got to be able to take the cap off to get the air in, and then you unscrew the Presta valve like this, and then you have to prime it, basically just push down and let a little bit of air out before it'll actually take air. Now this is a smart head on here, so it works for Presta or Schrader valves, and then we're just going to go ahead and put that on there, pull back, and it'll take air just like any other.
Now, Matt, what's your perspective on tire pressure, especially when you're looking, you know, not for instance like road racers who run at super high pressure, but something like this commuter, but still with thinner tires?
Yeah, you know, they usually have a pretty outrageous tire pressure, although I'm seeing, it's not too bad. It says 50 to 70 PSI on here. For a long time, the bike industry was putting like really high pressures on all the tires in it. You know, it really wasn't a good idea to ride a thinner tire at, you know, 120 PSI. It jars you really bad. So, you know, I would say before I looked at the sidewall, my suggestion would have been about 50 to 60 PSI, depending on the weight of the rider. So, you know, I'm about 165 for poundage, and I would probably, this tire I'd probably ride at 55 or 50 PSI to get a nice ride quality. Makes a big difference, you know. I don't think people realize that, you know, 10 PSI is gonna, I guess it's winter, so we might as well go up to 60. But yeah, I guess a lot of people don't realize that tire pressure makes that big of a difference, and I feel like it really does.
Now, besides the blue wheels, I actually really like the reflective sidewalls. Just gives you increased visibility while out on the road. Many electric bikes have them these days.
I swear you keep bringing over bikes that I like more and more each time, where I'm like, oh, this one would be, you got to work a little bit more for this one. It's like a cyclist bike, a little commuter that's nice, looks rad, looks fun to hammer around on. Ryan's always tempting me with his latest e-bike and brings it over, has me build it, and I still don't have one yet, which is, it's only a matter of time. By this spring, I'll probably have a couple of them. But yeah, e-bikes are fun. All right. Well, we can drop it out of the stand, I think.
All right, we're gonna just take a quick look at this display. Obviously, I'll go through this in more detail when I do my full review. Monochrome display here. Gonna go ahead and take off the plastic cover. Got a battery indicator, miles per hour, odometer, and assist level. And we got the buttons here. And that's pretty much it. No throttle on this electric bike. Again, top speed, I believe, is right around 18 miles an hour. And of course, the battery is much smaller. Let's take a closer look at that. And because of the battery being small, you wouldn't really want to throttle on this bike anyway. Looks like we got the charger port up here. And this is a super unique style battery pack. Again, super small, super lightweight. Has this touch sensitive button here, and it lights up blue. So definitely unique to Propella. I don't think you'll find this battery pack anywhere else. And it does lock. There's some keys that come up here on the front, so we'll be able to pop this off. You could bring it in for charging. I'll certainly be storing this inside. Obviously, we live in Wisconsin, so want to keep that battery nice and warm. All right, Matt went ahead and installed the saddle, or temporarily installed the saddle here. Again, very simple saddle. I like that it's blue. If you want something more comfortable, check out our electric bike accessories list. Obviously, this one is probably going to be your coolest looking saddle, just because it matches the aesthetics that are found pretty much all around the bike.
Yeah, so 6 mil to put the saddle on. There's just one bolt below here. It's a pretty simple design and kind of a classic design for a lot of seat posts, but makes it really easy to install. So just loosen it up enough to where you can slide it and get it on. And then I'll put it on the ground to level it out to make sure that we're not riding nose up or nose back. So yeah, that's a little bit high.
Now, in your experience with saddles, are you really looking for kind of horizontal, parallel with the ground?
Yeah, I mean, you want it nice and even, and it's hard to tell on some saddles, you know, like I feel like there are different saddle designs where it's like almost a few degrees up, you know, and the nose. That way you kind of cradles you a little bit nicer, but most of them you want pretty well level as far as that goes. And then you do have a little bit of an adjustment too on the seat rails to where you can get a little bit closer to the handlebars or a little bit further back. A lot of people don't realize that if the bike doesn't feel right, if you're getting a little cramp in your spine or you're not feeling right, you can get some adjustment, or you know, even changing this piece out to a different length or an adjustable stem. A lot of the e-bikes that we see through here are going to have the adjustable stem, but getting that dialed in is a nice thing. Bike fit always helps quite a bit.
All right, so that wraps up the unboxing and assembly of the Propella 7S electric bike. I personally came away impressed. A lot of times with some of these electric bikes, you don't really know what you're getting quality-wise until you see it in person, and I am pretty impressed with this electric bike. Can't wait to get outside and ride it. It might be a while because it is so cold here. Let's get some of Matt's thoughts on this electric bike.
Yeah, so I'd say some of the nice notes on this one. You know, the Shimano disc brake calipers, as we mentioned before, pretty big fan of those, being that it is a Shimano rapid fire shifter, and the Altus rear derailleur, it really set up quite nicely. That's a pretty standard componentry throughout the industry, and I don't know, it makes it easy to dial in and feels pretty good. So I would say this one is probably my favorite that we've set up out of the box. Brakes were really easy to align and all of that. So we'll have to see what it's like on a test ride when it's not -17 below out. So, but and it's also a really nice looking bike aesthetically too. They made it pop, and it looks pretty clean and all of that. So yeah, they did a good job with it.
All right. Well, thanks to Matt again at All About Bikes. He's my e-bike friendly bike shop here in Wausau, Wisconsin. Thanks to you for watching. Again, if you are looking to purchase a Propella electric bike, I'd really appreciate it if you use the link in the description before you make your purchase. Helps support e-bike escape and helps us make videos like this one. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.